What's up, everybody? As we get started today, think back to last week, and we talked about this game. It would take our best complementary game for us to win, and so that looked like turnover margin and tackling margin. It looked like playing well in the red zone, and so those were the things that we thought going into the game we'd really have to nail, and we kind of went through it, as you guys know, step by step, all the way through the week. And so this was a really cool team win, and that's what playoff football is about. And I thought, man, like, this was one of those games everybody in the building contributed to winning. It was a short week of getting the guys ready, from a training and medical staff, hitting on the road to go battle in the environment. It was everything about putting the whole group together, so it was really cool. With all that said, let's get rocking with you guys regarding the game.
John.
Hey, Dan, can you give us an update on Sam Cosmi, please?
Yeah, unfortunately, some tough news on Sam. He does have an ACL injury, John. That will knock him out for the rest of the season. So he's been a significant, part of what we're doing, especially in the interior. So yeah, that's a big deal. The ball player and the man.
And I know, like, you can get into actually a two-part, but how you replace him. But also, I am curious about Jaden and just his play against the blitz. He's been good against that all year, but I'm curious if there's some plays that happened the other night that kind of highlight his growth.
Okay. The first part was Sam. Trent took the bulk of the reps inside as we go, and as we get into this week, we'll see what all the matchups and how we want to go about looks at it. But I thought Trent really did a good job. And then as far as Jaden goes, he's a remarkable guy, man. I was thinking about him, just thinking that someone may ask a question about him. So first guy off the bat, that's interesting. But I thought he lives in that space of like intense pressure where like the mental chaos is raining down and it's way outside of the comfort zone. It's anything but comfortable. But for him, that's awesome, man. He loves that space. And he has the mindset that has to be implemented into those moments. And so whether that was a end of a half or an end of the game or beating a blitz, checking a protection. And I think probably, John, one of the areas of growth doesn't always have to use his legs and athletic ability to react to it. If he can see it pre-snap, reset a protection to one spot, and then get the ball to the player, that's a big deal. And that's an area of growth that I've certainly seen. And he's just one of the best competitors I've ever coached, and so it leans into growth as well, of improvement and finding ways to improve. So, but I was thinking about him today, and that spot where it's intense pressure is honestly like it's awesome. It's where he lives.
Nikki.
Hi, Dan. Terry and Cliff have both talked a lot about the work that Diami has put in this year. What have you seen from him, and how have you seen it translate to the field?
Yeah, I thought what's early started, and you probably saw this too, were like more catch and run kind of plays with him, using the speed and the strength to go. And then it evolved more, Nikki, where it was downfield throws and big plays. I thought, what a, like a big one the other night, like a ball that was perfectly dropped into the right spot. But allowing that speed to be down the field, that's a really big deal, Nikki, because the catch and runs are good. Don't get me wrong. Yards are yards, however you get them. But the ability to stretch the field adds a whole nother element to what we do. And so, we're all pumped to see, him make these strides and improvement. And it makes everybody else better too, knowing that, if they're going to put a double on one side, every option's available.
And then with Mikey, he just always seems to be in the right place at the right time. Is that pure instinct? Is that something else? I mean, what is it about him that, allows him to do that? I
think instincts are a really big part of it, Nikki. You've got it. He's very competitive and instinctual player. His background as a receiver certainly helps. I thought that was indicative on the post play where he undercut it to go make a play at the end of the half. But there's more to it than that. It's the football smarts that go into it as well. He doesn't usually get fooled on something twice. And so it's instincts, but also there's a high level football IQ there that's constantly at work.
Sam.
stood out to you either during the game or when you watched it, back, about Jaden's ability to manage the game?
Well, I think going into the game, we knew we were have to be bold, Sam, on some spots, whether that was third and fourth downs, when he'd have to use his legs, when he'd, be able to, it was hand it off, rip it, whatever that looked like. And those are spots, that are important on the fourth downs. But I thought as important in the second half, some long drives that use time to go down the field and using all the shot clock, so we can just make sure all of those moments that we go, whether it's huddling, whether it's, using all the shot clock, extending plays, those were some of the things that jumped out to me, Sam.
Can you share an example or two of the underrated behind-the-scenes things that you mentioned at the top about how you guys got prepared to ultimately win that game?
It speaks to, guys like Bobby Wagner coming off a ankle sprain and, him being here well before, sunlight would even begin to be coming up, to, all the hydration, all the things that went into, like Pedialytes on every seat on the airplane by the nutritionist. It's finding small margins, Sam, to win on a short week. And I thought the medical and training staff, that was a big piece of it. There was also sacrifice on the coach's side to make sure that turnaround happens quickly, when you start a whole day earlier. And so finding all these edges and margins to do that was a big deal. But I would say on this day, I thought training staff, medical staff really had their work cut out for them to get guys ready to play, and it showed on Saturday night.
Ben?
Hey, Dan. Asked a lot about Marshawn Lattimore last week, so I want to ask again this week. Looked like he was maybe staying on one side more. What was the thought with him, and how did that kind of fit with the entire secondary in this game? Yes,
you're right, Ben, that in this case, that's how we decided to play. Going into it, the weapons for them, it wasn't, to one side to go to this player. We really just, made the decision early on. A lot of shifts, a lot of motions, different weapons. So we were going to play left and right and go into that spot. So that's what we decided to do. It was good that he came through the game healthy. That was a big deal for us moving forward. So, pleased on both sides of that.
And what was the, if anything, Jared Goff has had a couple of games of series throwing picks, but by and large has been pretty good about not doing that. Was there something that you guys were doing either scheme-wise or just attacking him in the pocket that you think kind of led to more of those turnovers in this game?
When you look back, 4 is a big number. That doesn't happen very often. We played probably a little more zone in this game, so you have to go in and dig in on those sides to see what that would look like. But I thought Joe and the guys did a good job of having disguises, when to hit zones, when to not. And let's face it, this is a tough outfit to defend, from receivers to running backs to tight ends to a very good offensive line. So sometimes just, like when the moment happens, you got to capitalize on them too, Ben, like an overthrown pass, to come up with those. Like that was a big deal. The interception in the red zone by Mikey at the end of the half, that was a big deal. So those are the ones when we had those chances. I thought those were kind of the, the game-changing plays.
David Aldridge.
Hey, Coach. Last 2 weeks you've gone into very loud, very hostile environments, and your offensive line has not had many motion penalties, many false starts. You haven't gone deep into the play clock. And I just wonder, what were the points of emphasis the last couple of weeks in terms of silent count, in terms of all the things you have to do in a loud environment to execute and to get to the protections and to the slides and to the checks and everything that you need to do to execute in those situations?
Yeah, you're right. And we knew this was going to be a loud environment, and it was. It was absolutely lit in a way that we wanted to use that energy also for our good and feel that vibe for it. So much of what we want to do in those scenarios can be done silent. And so whether that was use of a hand signal, like the nonverbal communication, we worked it. And so as opposed to, sometimes you may do one period or wait till a certain day, we did it every day last week, including our walkthrough on Saturday. And so we had, one set of speakers from the sideline, another one behind the huddle on offense, just to emphasize that, so you couldn't almost cheat yourself and use your voice, you had to go through it and kind of go through the whole process. But being a tempo offense does have advantages in spots like that, David, because you're not constantly changing at the line of scrimmage with your voice. There's other alerts that would go with that.
Trent has played outside all the times we've seen him so far this year. How many reps did he get in practice inside the last couple of weeks?
We do rotate him some inside, and sometimes it's even on the show team if the player needs other reps, because at this time of the year the reps are valuable. This, so they're not as many as you have during the early part of the season. So for him, sometimes that's in a walkthrough, might just be on the carded spot. But he has the experience, on both sides. He's played both tackles, and so he really nailed it. And he was also the one that had to, work on, communication for the cadence. So he didn't have a lot of work at that. So he really stepped into a significant role. And I love when those moments happen, David. That's been Jeremy McNichols. It's been people like him, Oziz, others that step into that space and deliver. It's really powerful as a teammate.
JP?
Hey, Dan, you just mentioned the small margins it takes in the NFL to win games, and throughout the year you guys have had these winning time moments late in games. Yesterday wasn't small or a late game moment. What went right yesterday that the final result was so different and you guys were on top really throughout this thing?
Yeah, I think the turnover margin was the biggest one, JP, for us to go, and I liked that the same intensity that got us the lead, we used the same intensity in the second half. And so I think we've all seen, like, sometimes when you have the lead, you can be tight because you want it so badly and you don't want to mess up. And I wanted to make sure in this game, we had actually talked about that the night before, we're going to have the lead in this game. And I want the same intensity that brought us the lead that we go finish them off. And so there was going to be a finishing element in that game. I just had a sense the guys were really prepared and really ready. And we talked about finishing a lot and what that was going to look like at the end of the game. With a lead to go say, all right, this is where it goes down. And that was the thing I thought was the biggest thing. Like, we're going into the second half with the same intensity that we did, coming into the half.
And how much encouragement did you guys get from the run game really, really working and asserting itself yesterday? Yeah,
that was such a big deal for us, JP. You're right. For the last month, we felt stuck into that spot. And we knew we had to eventually find our way through that. And I thought the runners, really, played downhill and played aggressive. All three of the running backs had their impact in this game, but I was certainly impressed by the physicality of finishing the runs. And I felt that from Brian. It may not have been a long run, but there was one on the sideline. It was right over next to me where I was at. And I just felt that. And so that's a really big deal for us, man, having that kind of balance. And when we have that, that's what can make it so difficult, to defend us. And so having that, the run game and the time of possession to go our way, like, that was a big deal.
Thanks, Dan.
You got it.
We have time for 3 more questions, so we'll do Natalie, Candy, then Donna.
Okay. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Good, Natalie. How you doing?
Good. Starting the year, a lot of people thought this was going to be a 500 team, and then you kind of knock down that wall, and then it's okay, maybe they'll make it to a wild card game, but if they do, they'll be playing at house money from here on out. To now be in this NFC title game, how rewarding has it been to knock down those walls and surpass expectations?
Well, I would say, first off, we didn't want to let any narrative define us. It was just us. We knew how to get it done. We would stay together. In the difficult moments, we kept our chin down and kept swinging, like you do when you're in a fight. But the fire was lit well before anybody spoke about us. Could they make it playoffs or not? Like, that was never really, what we did. I can even think back to months ago, Magic spoke to us, and everybody's heard process, and he added the word winning on the end of that. And so the process of winning for us week to week was what our focus was, and we really stayed disciplined to that, Natalie.
Coach, can you share, you talk a lot about the complimentary football. What did you see out of your special teams unit?
They were the ones, I thought, on the kickoff side, Candy. That was a big piece for us on the starting field position. By the numbers, it showed they would probably kick it out, on their side. So we didn't get a chance for Luke on the return side. And that was, I would say, expected, because that's kind of how they had played for the season. But what we knew we could control was on our side of the kicking side to say, hey, if we get our chances here to create some field position, and so tackles inside the 25, tackles that were, significant for us. I thought that brought the team a lot of energy. And I thought Tress, I don't know if it was just one pump. I can think of the one that was downed, a really flipping field position on his. So those were the ones I thought really set the tone. The kickoff coverage and our punt team, down in the inside, it might have been the 12 or 10, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but those were the plays that jumped out to me.
Thank you. Hey, Coach.
Hi, Donna.
And looking at this team, and it being a young team, it seems like it's always a calmness about this team when you look at them in the playoffs, and it seems like the moment is never too big for this team. Could you talk a little bit about the calmness of this team going into this playoff stretch and just the moments never seeming to be big for a young team like them?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you say that. Before we played at Tampa, I had a couple of the veteran players who played in a lot of playoff games talk, and it was guys like Nick Allegretti, who had 16 games, and had Dante Fowler, may have had 9, and Marshawn 8 or 9. So I had some of those guys speak. It's still football, and where do we go? As I got ready to go out with the team, I did feel a little, they wanted it so bad. This everybody just take one big breath, and you felt the whole locker room and just let's go, be us. And I was glad that I did that, to make sure this environment was lit. They felt it already, and I said, man, we're going to go play like we're capable of. And I thought they did a good job of that. Sometimes in a postseason game, you can feel over trying take place because you want it so badly. And so make sure, let's really be true to us. We've got a real way about it, how we get down. And so, we're going to make sure we stayed consistent with that, even knowing that, there were going to be some plays that the other team was going to make. And that's what I said, man, chin down, keep swinging. You're in a fight, and, they had a reverse for 60 or 70 yards for a touchdown. Keep chin down, keep swinging. And so I like that we didn't ride these emotions, get into the next one, get the correction, whatever that looked like to go. And it's also good to do that when you're playing well. Go attack them again. Go attack them again. And so I thought there was an element of that with our team.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. You guys have a good one. I'll see you on Wednesday.